When you're all in, okay.
I am also there, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't. There's no real like information of whether we're here until I think there's a poll or something that happens. But
Yeah, let's just start it now. Yeah, there you go. This should show up in your browser. So basically, I'm asking, just want to get a lay of the land because I think some people are really used to using these things already. Basically, can you name any of these AI tools? What they have to do with like language, graphic, search engines? There are AI tools. Anything that you're familiar with?
I
Yeah,
imagine
then
for Jack, the answer to this is just yes, rather than all the different tools.
you can ask ChatGPT about this.
Can you just give me a list of AI tools? Thanks.
Anything that you have heard of?
Remember.
Okay, I'm just curious. What is Copilot?
Like for coding.
I see.
Is that the GitHub one?
Yep, somebody else wrote it with more detail.
If you're joining now or you're not really sure how to join, you can go to slido.com in your browser and type in that code and you should be making it here. I want to take this poll at the end. Bard, okay. Voicify, I know that stable diffusion, I have no idea what that is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think, this is some good sample unless somebody else, yeah, one last typing. Stable diffusion, okay. Mid-journey, there you go. I caught that. So can you name some benefits for these tools for scientific research? Not in general, but just if you want to do academic research or science, just in the role that you're at now, how any of the tools that you know can be useful to you, do you think? That GPT, can that be useful at all? Yep. How much papers getting ideas, figures. Yep, all of those are great. Bad literature review. Yeah, that's something that I wanted to touch on today. That's a good one. Okay, yeah, this is pretty good. Thank you. And then the last question is kind of the opposite. What are some of the potential pitfalls when you use any of these tools? At least the way they are today. I'm not talking about AI taking over and producing an existential crisis for humanity. Bad literature review. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are good. Some of the caveat that we'll see about facts is that this is the main difference between some regenerative language tools and codes and AI tools is that they create original content. So they can create a lot of garbage. There's a couple of colleagues in the department that are working actively on this, and they would reiterate many times that while people are trying to come up with ways to judge the accuracy, it's almost anecdotal. There is no way yet to measure how accurately or truthfully any AI tool can answer any prompt in particular because it creates original content. outside of specific prompts. And there's several sort of computational and resource issues associated with that. But yeah, it's not just that it gives incorrect info, it makes stuff up. And so the stuff that it makes up might be correct, but doesn't have to be. So yeah, this is really important for using summarized content, for example, for papers. So thanks for doing that. I was just planning on going through the rest of the presentation basically by showing you the tools that I've been using the most lately and maybe giving you some ideas as to how to use them. But I wanted to kind of work on this together, so I'm not just doing this alone. So I think I wanted to start maybe with the this, if you've used ChatGPT, this might already be really useful to you, but sorry, useless to you, but I wanted to show you a little bit how this works. And there's many different ways to do this. I just want to give you a glimpse into any of these tools. We're not going to really do an in-depth analysis of any of this. But let's practice this, right? What if we wanted to have ChatGPT summarize the main takeaways from a paper? Anybody have a good prompt for this? Anything that I could, for example, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna find what Randy's CP. Let's see. I probably used it. There you go. Let's see if I can summarize this paper for us. Yeah. Could you provide a summary of the paper by? See what it tells us. So, I mean, run in particular, but let's see how accurate this is, right? I think the first sentence is presents a new technique for maintaining face stability in intermittent laser. It's not totally accurate. It's not a new technique, right? But at least, I mean, it's not untrue. The technique uses feed-forward system, which enables self-referencing. Okay, that sounds about right. Okay, that sounds about right. So the first chunk, I think it's pretty. This chunk is not what I would call the main finding. They're okay, right? It's like okay. But then mitigating the laser-induced phase noise, fine. Using a mean carrier phase envelope. I don't know where this is coming from. This number, this is totally bogus. Unless I'm missing something, as opposed to a 12.5 millihertz shift found with no stabilization.
No, that's all bogus.
I don't know if it's doing some sort of radian to hertz automatic translation, but that's not how definitely, this is not the phase noise without stabilization anyway, in radian or otherwise.
Sergio, can I chime in for a second on this?
Yeah.
Like, so I think this is like the wrong way to go about using AI for papers, because ChatGPT might or GPT-3, 4, whatever, might not have actually seen the details of this particular paper. So it's like making it up by the words that you're giving it. But there is a way you can encode just words in a paper inside vectors, mathematical, numerical vectors, and make a vector database. And then you can find vectors, cosine similarity between the different vectors. And you give it a question, it turns the question into a different vector, compares the similarity with all the other vectors that it has saved from the paper inside the database, and then gives finds the answer, gives it to a ChatGPT type of model, LLM model, and translates it into natural language, so you can see the actual word that it finds the answer. It's called vector embedding, and that's the way to do it if you want to talk to a paper or talk to.
Let me. But I take that point really well. I'm basically just trying to go over. I mean, I think that point is really good, and I'm actually going to show you a better tool to do this at Scientific. I'm not necessarily showing you how to use ChatGPT. I'm trying to, for those of us who haven't really seen it ever, and I think a couple of us haven't really used it before, I just want to show you the nuances of how to use it and how not to use it. I'm kind of showcasing how not to use it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, but I appreciate that comment. Yeah, and if you have, maybe at the end of the talk we can compile some resources as to how, what kinds of tools to use for what, right? Maybe you can tell us different. So this was an example to show that if you're really trying to have reference, for example, a paper And I chose this paper. I mean, I've done this before. I'm kind of practicing because ChatGPT in principle should have access to some of the open content of this particular publication. If you did something more recent, they can't really access it. But what would be Erfan, what would be a good use of this code if I wanted to use it, for example, to create some sort of summary, or how would you use ChatGPT in a good example, in an example that can sort of maximize its what's actually good at?
So okay, like assuming that I'm just assuming that it hasn't seen the paper before, maybe. The thing we could do is like, I don't know the context window of like GPT, like I don't know how large it is, but you could just give it like a good like chunk of the paper, just copy and paste that chunk of paper into it, and then at the end add, okay, please summarize this.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah, that's a good idea. Let's try that, because that's I think a really good example. So let me just try to find this. I'm not sure that I'm in the. Let me just do it for sure, right? Because I don't think I'm on the. Something that it can do really well, for example, is could you imagine that you need to fit, you wrote an abstract, right? Remember how, I mean, Jack, you and I have done this a million times. You read a really great abstract, but you like 15 words above the limit, Can you rewrite this abstract in 150 words? And I'm not sure that this is an actual 150 words. We can do a little word count. Let's stress that it is. It doesn't always do it. You will have to double check. By taking a glance at this, it seems like it did a really great job at taking this and summarizing it, right? I think it's I've seen this paper already, and it's quoting the right numbers. It's the right type of laser. The first sentence is completely right. So it can really actually help expedite things that you've written already. Once you give it pretty accurate content. So, yeah, thanks for that suggestion, Erfan. What is another way of doing that? What if I wanted to, test something else that may or may not work? Let's stay within the CP topic just for fun, right? Can you, you don't need to ask questions. Please define what the carrier envelope base is. I don't know what the T vector is, but sometimes you get a, do you define CP, but for ultra short process, or redefine? I want to showcase a little bit, how it can be tricky to get the exact answer that you're looking for. And imagine when it's, when you're actually looking for an answer that you don't know the answer of, right? So I think they're still using this funny definition, this T vector. I'm not sure what's using it. This is not necessarily inaccurate, right? But I would say I wouldn't be satisfied as an expert with this question. So, this is a case scenario where it kind of is giving you an answer, but it's not totally right. It also has something to remember. It has relatively short memory. I can say, can you elaborate further, right? And if you look at this answer, you would see that it kind of repeats itself quite a bit. You may want to say, maybe write a one-pager for that. By the way, you may need some more tokens. You can look into some of those details here. But there's a given amount of input per output that you require. But if I were to go and say, thanks, now, can you tell me about, I don't know, anybody has information, who Randy Lemons is?
Oh, this is gonna be bad.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Oh, this is great. Well, I mean, you kind of totally making this up, right? But you kind of, it's kind of hitting some words, right? Ultra fast laser physics. You're not really that far fetched.
Are we not sure there's not a Randy Lemons at Rice University?
That's what I'm Googling.
I want to try it. A few times it nails it, and I want to try to go back to the CP conversation to show you about memory, because that's relatively critical. I'm not totally happy with what you said about CP. Could you give me some of the main references describing this? What is CP? This factor. Okay, so it actually remembers in this case, and doesn't always. This is another example of, we can check these out. There's another example of how not to use ChatGPT for citations. I've tried a couple times and it makes them up. It can make up citations. Let's try to see if this one is real or not. It doesn't mean that every one of them is made up, but it can definitely make up citations. There's no results for this, but maybe it's just part of how I'm finding it. Let me just look at it from the title alone. I do not think this exists. Yep. So it's made up. The first reference is made up, right? So, I think I just want to give you an idea of how to use ChatGPT. There's many other ways to use it. I just want to jump into the next few things, otherwise we're not going to have time. But a little bit of corporate of the benefits and the corporate of using ChatGPT. So generally, if you want to feed it an actual content that is accurate and want to reword it, it's pretty good with that. But be careful; it's really good at creating content, which means it's really good at creating garbage. Okay? Just to save time, I'm not going to use Bard. Bard does basically the same thing as ChatGPT does. It's a different, slightly different language architecture with different number of layers. Some of these things are secretive anyway, so you can't really find much. I can't even use my UCL account to do this. I need to use my Gmail account because UCL doesn't allow you to use it. But it's not exactly the same, but many of the take-homes and takeaways are from ChatGPT are equal, the same for Bard. So I want to encourage you to use them and play with them in general. Let's see, I want to jump into how to use literature review, but I think in order to play with graphics, I wanted to sort of start running some of my favorite graphics. So let's start with, I think, Midjourney. Who's used Midjourney before?
I have.
Hey, Irfan? Anybody else? Jack, did you say you used it?
Yep.
Great. So just to give you an idea, this is a Discord sort of, I mean, it can be run in multiple ways, but if you try to use it, you can go to Discord and there's multiple kinds of channels that can help you. Most of the times you wind up going to one of the newbies and people here are practicing or what have you. So there is one channel, for example, that shows some of the highlights of things that you can do. I don't know what highlights is. If you run through things, people are prompted in different ways to sort of. Sometimes I just don't want to see some things that come out here. Anyway, somebody really loves dogs. So anyway, there's a lot of resources here. We don't have the time to go over them. I think this is also something you want to explore on your own, but just to show you a little bit, where's my, there you go. To show you a little bit what one can do. Since you, Irfan and Jack have used this, do you want to give me a prompt? And for everybody, given a prompt, for example, in this case means just doing an imagine and then writing a prompt.
Can I just give it like the stuff you were talking about, the lasers? Like, was this SCP? Like, just like you were some people talking about lasers.
Yeah. In this case, however, we could try. Can you show? No, I mean, actually, show. This is going to be interesting. We talk about what I think is a Midjourney is not good with language processing, so it's probably not going to know what CP is. But let's prompt it. Show me a laser that's, CP stabilized, interacting with what, a mirror?
Sure.
What style do you want? You can do it like comic style. You can make it photographic. You can even define the lens if you want to make it realistic. We need to get
cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk?
Cyberpunk, yeah, it's like cyberpunk. Yeah.
Why sorry?
Cyber.
Cyberpunk.
Oh,
Or
cyber.
CYBER.
Yeah, cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk style. All right. It's going to take a minute, so let it run for a bit and we'll come back to it. We can also prompt it another thing. Let's just do a second one for fun. Let's see. Something perhaps more realistic that belongs to, normal natural language. Jackson or Linshan. Something perhaps related to your research that you may want to do. Can you unmute yourselves? No ideas. Let's see. Let's see what it says if we have a. Oh no, I'm sorry, I have a.
Well, it got
Jackson
Cyberpunk
Fletcher.
and Mirror.
Laser scientist. Drinking coffee while aligning a laser. Realistic. So. All right. So, as you can tell, the bot has no idea what a CP is, but it's kind of going a little bit. The style is definitely nailed down. So, what Mirror Journey does, it gives you basically 4 options from your prompt. You can redefine the prompt or improve it, but then the default options. So there's many things you can do with these options, but the default options are to either upgrade any one of these. I say, oh, I love this image. I just wanted a higher resolution. You go with U1. This would be U2, U3. But let's say that I really want, this is kind of nailing it pretty close to my prompt, but I want it to give me some more options. So I'm going to say, give me more options, more versions of that second one. I can prompt here. These are some of the automatic prompts. Okay, and this is our, I decided to do this, Jackson, because I wanted to show that, when prompted with names and not descriptors, oftentimes the bot, of course, represents demographics that are hegemonic, and it would have never really imagined. It's almost like the fact that you don't have to say a white man, but if you don't say a white man, then it will draw a white man, right? And so if I wanted to say a black physicist, a black female physicist, I should have said so. I can't just say Jackson Fletcher. Most likely would interpret a white man. Rather than that, let's see, which one do we like?
I like the
a
laser
sewing
coming out
machine.
of the coffee machine or
This
sewing
one?
machine. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Let's see what happens when it gives some more options. Anyway, while we let that run, let me show you what Kyber can do. Does anybody know Kyber? Kyber is great. Kyber, I love it, but I still haven't mastered using it. It can create short animations or videos based on different things. So you can, for example, add an audio, and it will build something based on that. It can transform an existing video, so you can have a real video and then choose parts of it to either enhance, like augmented vision, or just completely filter and render that video. The example that I'm going to give you is creating a video out of an image, a still image that you have. So, sorry, I'm seeing some chat. What is happening? Oh, yeah. Yeah, and so sometimes you see that at some point you have to be really descriptive. Most of the times that I use Midjourney, I actually provide really long descriptions. It's really, really fun to do. You can actually prompt ChatGPT to give really detailed descriptions. Let's try this out, because this is going to take a while. So I'm going to load an image that some of you have seen, which is Linshan and Brittany working in the lab. And so let's now prompt it. This is how it works. So what do we want this animation to do?
What's the photo again?
Yes.
Scroll down. I just want to see it.
Let me pull it out here. Yeah. This is a photo. We have Linshan and Brittany aligning a laser. Yeah. You wanna, I don't know.
Laser blowing something up in the lab. However you want to word that.
Give me a sec. Let me remove this. So I'm sharing the screen right here.
Mhm.
This would be what? So yeah, what do you want, Randy? Do you want the laser to blow something up?
Yeah, I don't know. If we're doing it for funsies, why not?
I think laser in the image. Let's be a little descriptive. What come out of the fiber? I'm not sure that it will understand what the fiber is. And blow the room up.
Works for me.
Do we want to add anything else?
Can do it in the style of Studio Ghibli.
Um, how do you spell that?
I think GHIBLI. Is that right?
Close enough, probably. Yeah.
Check it out just in case.
Yep, Jackson said the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take movie style. It's add a CAD, yeah? Let's add a CAD. Can you also add a CAD running? I've never done this. I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but you try. Here it gives you some options, ideas for what to do. You can add a song as well if you want to.
Maybe a Backstreet Boys
Edit
song would be good.
Settings. Make it not too long, otherwise we're gonna run out of time. Let's make it just 10 seconds. You can do all kinds of movement if you want to. Let's see, maybe zoom out. It's gonna create some preview images from in a minute. So
Oh, word blow in the prompt is not allowed.
yeah, I did say move.
And
Maybe just
Okay.
explode.
and explode.
Just try to. It's gonna create some. Yeah, there you go. Some frames. We can come back to this in a minute. Let's see what Discord is giving us. So the last thing I think I did was create. Yeah, kind of. Remember, you can take a version of which one you like. In this case, I said I like that, and in this case, we like this one, and so it's giving us newer versions now. You can again use a prompt to, once you get a little savvier, you can use a prompt to further describe. So I don't need to just blindly create a variant, but I can further describe, for example, this one and tune it up. Once you get pretty savvy at this, you can actually get in 2 or 3 iterations, you can get a pretty good final image. So let's imagine I really like this one. I want to create the final version or a higher quality one, so I'll just click on U1. And in this case, let's see what it's showing us. Let's see which one we like. I don't like that this is not Jackson, but, at least it's a pretty consistent dude. Yeah.
I like that it has the laser goggles on it.
Yeah, that's pretty Mike Woods influenced, huh?
Yeah, Mike Woods approved.
Let's play with one last prompt just to foster your imagination. Imagine, this is something that I wanted to ask you. Imagine that we've been doing social media outputs, right? For, I mean, clearly these are not images. The style of images that this creates are not things that you're going to put in your scientific paper as content, but it surely can be a cover, or it can be a social media output or outlet sort of little image or video, the kinds of things that Greg does, right?
Mhm.
So let's say any one of you, for any paper that you're either writing or would like to write, if you wanted to have a cover piece of art for your paper, how could you can't pay Greg and you really want to get on the cover. You have any prompt? Jackson, something with lasers and water molecules. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Can you give us a prompt? Jackson, can you give it to me by voice if you can? It's clunky the way I have this set up to look at the chat.
Let's see. Gosh, something with lasers and water molecules, or like a laser being shot into a water molecule, or
let's see, a high intensity laser, maybe splitting water. Let's call it a monomer so that it makes sure that it shows just one molecule, water monomer.
Yeah.
Artistic style. This is very little. Do you want to say what color of laser?
I like green.
Any other ideas for people in terms of style or some more descriptors? You can be really long and mid-journey. It's really interesting. We can see what this does. Let's go back to Kyber and see what this did. Okay, so we have 4 versions that we can choose. This is how Kyber works. We can, of course, reprompt it, but we can make it actually now choose which one we like and say, make a movie out of this. I'm not saying anything blow up quite yet, but at least stylistically, it's pretty solid.
There's a
Do you have any
small
preferences?
explosion in the second one, a very small, that one. Yeah, there's a very small something happening.
This one also has a little something, right? It's just so interesting.
I feel like the
But
cat's
it
missing in
creates-
most of them.
I think we took the cat out.
Did we take the cat out?
We
Yeah, we
did.
did.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, I had to take it.
Cat out of the picture.
Anybody likes anyone in particular? I think I like the
I mean,
second
top right
and
is closest probably to Studio Gilby. The other ones are not as much in terms of the
Mm.
style, at least the people.
let's go with this, yeah? Oh no, I'm done loading that. Never mind. Trade
Hold
video. What happened here?
Just click on it instead of the download thing, like the center of the image.
Well, there you go. Confirm for generation. So it's going to take a couple minutes now. Let's see. Well, let's come back to this. Diversify one last thing. This is Adobe Firefly. Something that you can expect to see. The one thing that I wanted to say is that it's really not worth really doing a huge amount of tutorials of any of these tools because this is still a playground sort of learning process, not for us only, but just for the machines itself. What I see is a trend of studios like Adobe that are well established already have a really high chance of producing tools that are going to stick around for longer simply because they have a market share. And while many of these tools are right now free or very cheap, they're part of the training process of the tools. They're not always going to be like this. So I would pay attention to what Adobe does, for example, in terms of AI. The Firefly, if you have a Slack account, you should be able to access it. Can be really useful for a slightly different. Each one of these tools is really good at slightly different things. In the case of Firefly, it can create either an original image, just like Midjourney. It can do some interesting text effects, but I don't think it's really interesting. What I like Firefly for is taking a natural image and then changing things up in there. So let's test that out, just to give you an idea. No, I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to upload the same image just because why not? And what we can do here, and in this, I haven't played with this quite yet enough. I think what some of the things that you can do is select parts of the image and try to replace them with something or add something onto them. So let's see.
Try and get rid of
I
the
had an
camera.
issue to-
See if you can just fill it in with extra lab stuff.
Did I choose a subtract
You're currently adding, I think.
or no? Yeah. I'm gonna. Well, I can't really see my cursor, so this is getting clunky. Something is going on with. There you go. Yep. I'm not sure if there's a screen sharing, but try again. There you go. F wheels. remove this camera and replace it with, normal background. I'm not sure.
Scientific
Doesn't make sense.
equipment. Yeah, or normal background.
Another person.
Yeah, I was thinking it kind of looks like a person.
You can try Jackson again.
Yeah. Let's see what it does. While it thinks, okay, this is almost done. Kyber. What did we think? Oh God, the water splitting. No, this didn't get it. I don't think. Perhaps the monomer, the word, was a culprit here.
Yeah, I was
I
thinking
mean,
that
it's
that
cool.
was.
I figured molecule might be clearer to it than monomer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be precise, but clearly, let's see, a high intensity green laser. Let's see, instead of splitting, shooting a single water molecule zoomed in atomic resolution. Let's see realistic style, what it does, even though I don't think there's a realistic style for this.
Just need a bigger microscope. That's trippy.
So yeah, this is our video. In this case, it's just transforming from the original video into this. You don't need to necessarily do this, but it's yeah, it's trippy. It's a bit like I think you can imagine an AI tool just not totally making much sense of this, but if you pay attention to how things wobble and change, it's almost like moving. It's almost like a psychedelic trip, I would say. It goes from an optical table to some like downboard system and so on.
The horrible laser safety happening here is fantastic. There are lasers everywhere.
Not shooting into anybody's eyes. This is totally fine.
I like that the
So, yeah.
subjects slowly move in front of the table. Like, so in this picture, right, the actual supporting structure above the table moves into the background and becomes like a weird equipment and stuff like that. It's fun. Also, the
Yeah,
Totoro looking things that show up.
yeah, it's really that's quite funky. So yeah, there's other things that you can do with this. You can keep prompting it, but anyway, this gives you a bit of an idea of what you could do. The Kyber can do a lot more things, but this can be really great. And if you have a video, you can also, as I mentioned, modify parts of the video. It doesn't need to always necessarily completely modify something, but just enhance certain aspects. Let's go back to Firefly and see what it did. Yeah, it didn't add another person, but it did remove the camera. It did a bit of a wonky job. You can see a little what it did.
It's
I think
wonky, but if you were just to glance at this in terms of like that one's not bad.
Yeah, this one is not bad. Yeah,
like just a social media post, you're just gonna glance at this. You're not gonna, really scrutinize it.
totally. Yeah. Let me cancel this edit and just for fun, just to start wrapping up here. I mean, I can spend a lot of time with stupid shit here. Let's see what it does if we add a plant. Let's see what it does. Let's see what that one was more like background removal. Here's that in an actual. And yeah, this is still not doing it. I'm not too happy with this, but sometimes you got to play with the prompt multiple times to be able to find it. We can come back to this for fun, but I wanted to show you one last thing. So there's a few, of course, the scientific community is not necessarily the one that creates most economic incentives. So these AI tools are coming to scientific research a little bit later for obvious reasons. I think the artistic and graphic design are the ones that are taking over the most. But that doesn't mean that some of them are not showing up. Some of them are not that very recommendable, but to Irfan's comment earlier, Elicit is really great to do a quick literature review and actual abstract summary. So if you want to do a literature review or you want to see specific papers being summarized really accurately, this is it to go. So just to, well, it gives you some examples here, but just to we take this one example, for example, you can ask a general question based on science. So this only resources papers, okay? That's why it's a little more accurate. So it's like making up new content. It somewhat is in the abstract summary, but it uses, as Zerfan was mentioning earlier, actual content from papers. So, and it organizes it really nicely because it just gives you these papers with the DOI, the citations, and a really quick summary for you to be like, is this what I, besides the title, is this what I need to be paying attention to? You know, so you could say something like, you know, what is the most up-to-date, what is the latest, what are the latest results in high-power laser-based terahertz generation? Not necessarily it's going to give you the latest results always. You remember, you have to scrutinize a little bit what the information you're getting, but what's good about Elicit is that the content, once it's chosen here, it's correct, meaning this row is correct always. It might not necessarily be the most up-to-date. So this, for example, is a really prominent citation in this realm, but it's not the most up-to-date, right? But it's a great, really great literature search review. This should help you make better citations and really save you a lot of time, much better than Google Scholar, right? So this is a must-use you know, resource in general for literature review. And of course, you can then go into the paper, you can star them and create categories. So this is one that is really useful. It's very limited in what it can do, but that which can do, like most AI tools, that which can do, that's very, very well. And this is great. I think this is going to stick around.
Sergio, as a quick note, this is like, I read through their FAQ part, and it just like it searches through the context of the papers, right? So if when you ask it, you know, the latest, that's something you ask its search engine, right? You don't ask the paper itself, right? So these are like two separate queries, you know, like I think you can, there's a sorting thing, you know, you can just like sort it by date or something at the top of the screen.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, it doesn't give us the latest results, but because it's not designed to, like, you know, do these kind of analysis types, you know, just the exact.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, thank you. You could also prompt it specific sort of papers and to give you a little more of a rundown. So play with the Elicit if you're curious. I think it's very useful. So
Quick question.
Is
there a tool yet for linking that to ChatGPT or others? So I mean, I know there's a lot of kind of background tools, AI tools that, you know, link different platforms together. So kind of to Erfan's comment that particular one, Elicit's not designed to take in a prompt for latest, but ChatGPT would understand that very clearly, but would give wrong results. Have you played around at all with like ones that link them to each other and then kind of immediately poured in the results from the others or anything like that? I wasn't sure what the latest on that was.
Yeah, actually, the only thing that I've done is play with Kyber using ChatGPT prompt. It can be linked. I think that's a really interesting question. The main reason why I'm not really spending that much time doing this. The only reason why I would hesitate to spend much time integrating any of these tools yet is because, as I mentioned, this is still very fast-paced growth territory where, you know, something that some of these the tools don't tell you, for example, is that every ChatGPT prompt, it's a lot of server time and sort of load. And so I think the estimate right now is that every one of these prompts actually costs somebody eventually 75 cents or something like that. Really, really expensive. So all of these different sort of sources, I think, are beginning to first train themselves through all these prompts, seeing what's possible, what's not, and trying to take a chunk of sort of the market eventually. So I have a feeling that whatever is true today, whatever is integrable today, it's going to change in a month, and then the next month. And so I think if a lot of your work is predictably going to be used seeing integrated in certain tools, it might be worth investigating how to do that. But I haven't really spent much time doing it, all of them with graphic text. I'm sure they will come in a way that they are really integrated eventually. And that's why I would be looking at the already well-established companies. I'm feeling that even if any of these tools becomes really, really successful, it's going to be swallowed or bought by one of the big ones. I have a hunch. Yeah. Nobody really knows. So yeah, this is a little bit, I think this hopefully gives you a bit of an idea. I mean, you can always go and there's many other tools out there. These are my go-tos in general. Just to summarize a little bit, I really want to encourage you to start using them actively. There's no reason to not begin to use these tools. Just remember what they're good at and what they're not good at. And I think the best way to understand what they can do and they cannot do is by using them and reading about them and sort of dissecting your tools based on expertise. So remember, ChatGPT and BARD, these language regenerative codes, are really good at creating original content. It means they can create garbage. So if you use it, make sure that you can verify the content. Something that you can trust it to do really good is to reword, rephrase, or restructure already existing content. So I use this, for example, in proposals heavily to take existing material that's either published or not and change it slightly in wording or structure or summarize it or expand it. Yeah, but wouldn't trust any technical content on it. And then I highlighted it. Same thing for BARD. This is almost obligatory for literature review. I think you can do it in conjunction with Google Scholar. It's just really useful. And I found it to be, I have not found any issues with this. Just for a quick summary and checking out some of the papers. And then clearly any of these things, I was hoping with this prompt that we're gonna get a good atomic system, but I actually prompted it not that long ago, something else. Yeah, this is a little closer to that. Laser emission and molecule and vacuum. This is a little bit closer to something that could be artistic, where if I wanted to make it, for example, a water molecule, I could maybe define it as like 2 or 3 different balls with different colors or something like that. I'm not sure exactly how you could prompt it, but even if the style is, you know, these 3 different tools, in particular these 2, Kyber and Midjourney, can be really useful for, you know, the type of social media outputs we have, or if you need to have a presentation and you want to have a sleek first slide, or you want to have some sort of like abstract, you know, sort of an artistic rendering of something that you're doing. We tend to focus too much on technical images, but sometimes a pretty image can also tell you, you know, there's all kinds of ways that you can use this in addition to the technical drawings that you have to, I don't know, throw a diagram of a laser interacting with a water molecule, right? So I want to incentivize you guys using this. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. It actually takes just a few prompts and then you just do something else in the meantime and come back to it. And same thing for little short animation. In this case, we were playing with this style, but it could be something that just makes this figure, for example, glow a little bit, or the dots move a little bit and wiggle, you know? So it can be a really powerful way to just get a lot of social or public engagement attraction and presentations overall. And then remember this tool, I think the examples I give are not very good yet, and it's still a beta version, but this is going to get really good. So if you have a goodish image, for example, and we're not really sure how to change it, but you don't have time to do another shoot, you can clean things up. You know, you want to make this, if this feels really busy, you can make it less busy. If you feel like the table is too empty and you want to show that you do a lot of work, you can just ask it to put a lot of optical posts. You can remove the background. I'd be curious what would have happened if Lin Shen and Brittany weren't wearing goggles and we were prompted it to put goggles on it. Would it do the trick and look like they're actually wearing goggles, right? Or the opposite way, right? Have people wear goggles for safety, but then just for the image itself, reproduce some sort of eyes. So, you know, again, this is a great tool to practice and because it's, remember that this is a generative field, but it can also do similar things to Kyber and Midjourney.
Have you tried, or has anybody
it.
tried tools to take like simple diagrams and stuff like that that you may make and turn them into a little bit more artistic versions of those?
I have tried to do it with one only, and I didn't have a whole lot of success. But I haven't been doing this for. I haven't had enough time to play with it. I've also been on the look for, I've been looking for different things, but maybe you guys could find it. I mean, if anybody finds any of these tools, we could create a little Slack channel and we'll put it in the general channel to compile some of these tools. I've been looking for something that can produce technical like drawings and then you can edit. And I know that if you, I mean, again, academic science is it's going to be the last stakeholder in terms of economic incentive, but not the last, but not the first for sure. But I was looking at architectural drawing, technical, engineering drawing, for example, tools, and I haven't found anything. But I'm sure something will come out soon. The second thing that they don't do is that any of these images are still, pixelated images in some way. It'd be nice to get on the look, to be on the look for AI tools that can create vectored images, so that even if you can create some sort of technical drawing that is not totally closed, it does 80% of the work for you, and then you just go into, Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, Inkscape, whatever you want, and actually modify it. You don't start from scratch. I haven't found that either. I trust it'll show up, so I'm going to be on the look.